there, how you going? I just wanted to have a quick conversation about how to be treated in relationships. It's an interesting, we have a bit of an epidemic in Australia, and it's all of our responsibility to, if we notice something with our friends or our family or anyone that we know, that we need to do something about it. And I was just at the hairdresser and I noticed that a girl sitting next to me, she was saying that we were just chatting, and she was just talking about what she was doing tonight, and we were all just having a conversation as you do when you're at the hairdresser. And then she started talking about a relationship, and then she said, he doesn't treat me very well. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, he's a bit verbally abusive, or he's got some issues. And I'm like, what kind of issues? And she said, he doesn't speak to me very nicely. I'm like, in what way? And she said, he's a bit verbally abusive, but that's okay. And both my hairdresser and I went, it's like an immediate alarm bell goes off, and for myself and for my hairdresser, and I won't say who it was or anything because I don't want to, because it's a private issue, but it's an issue that needs to be spoken about with everybody. And the interesting thing was that this girl seemed like she seemed a little bit insecure, a little bit unsure of herself, like she'd been through some stuff. And gosh, we've all been there. I've certainly been insecure, and I've certainly felt like I needed to deal with my self-worth and have not felt like 100% and had low self-esteem and issues with that. And I've had to definitely work on that in my life. And I just noticed with this girl that she definitely seemed a little bit insecure, and seemed really in a type of situation where domestic violence or family violence or verbal abuse happens. It generally happens when either person doesn't really feel that great about themselves. They have some issues with self-esteem. And so she said, I don't want to talk about it. And then I went, okay, that's all right. And then it's an interesting thing because it really does need to be spoken about. And so if you have a friend or a family member that they will portray certain behaviours that they may not want to bring their partner to certain events because they'll say, he has issues, or there's or they may start saying things like, we had a fight, but it's all my fault. Or they may start saying things like, my partner doesn't like me wearing this, my partner doesn't like me doing that, he won't be happy if I do that. And it can go both ways. It can be the female that is the one that's being verbally abusive. It's not always the female that is the victim in this situation. But how we can take responsibility in this situation is we teach people how to treat us. And the first step is to acknowledge the fact that verbal abuse and being called names and being put down is never acceptable, ever acceptable. And I think a good rule of thumb is to, if you were to share this with a friend or a family member that you're concerned about, maybe if you share it to them via message, or if you just share it to a different page so they can actually watch this. If that person was speaking to your daughter or your child or your niece or your nephew the way that you're being spoken to, would it be okay? And if it's not acceptable for that person to be speaking to someone else in that way, why on earth would it ever be acceptable for that person to be speaking to you? And I have personal experience with this, and I certainly have, and I know that we have a very big problem with this in Australia, and we need to do something about it. And so in this particular situation, I spoke to my hairdresser and I said, look, here are some things that you can do. Is you could, when you guys all go out, you could make sure that that girl brings the partner along, and maybe one of the boys that are hanging out could actually have a word with him and say, look, that's not how you speak to your girlfriend or someone that you love. And I just said to my hairdresser that you could also just help her to get some help. And so if she wanted to come and have a session with me, or if she wanted to go and see a counsellor, and they said the biggest thing that happens when people are in a negative relationship or an unhealthy relationship is that they don't want to, they generally don't want to speak about it. They feel very ashamed. They feel like everything is their fault. They feel like that it's not that bad, because they're often being told by their partner that they're making it all up, that they're just being manipulative, they're just acting like a victim, and that really everything is just their fault. And so what you can actually do to support that person is tell them that it's just encourage them to go and see their GP. And if they go and see their GP, they can get a referral to go and see a really good therapist. And even if they have no money, you can, through Medicare in this country, you can go and get 9 sessions with a great therapist to help deal with this issue. Or if you do have money, you can go and book in to see a therapist. And for those people that are scared to go and have some coaching or some kind of therapy, let me tell you this one thing. The best thing about having coaching or therapy is you get to sit down for an hour with a person who has their only vested interest is completely in you and helping you deal with whatever you need to deal with. And after coaching thousands of people for, I was about to say thousands of years, but no, for nearly 20 years, the biggest thing that comes from the sessions with people is that what people work out is that there's actually nothing wrong, and that they need to love themselves, and they learn to love themselves. And that's the biggest thing that often comes out of therapy. And often it's some people are scared to talk about stuff because we are brought up with, you're not meant to talk about personal issues, and you're not meant to talk about what goes on at home, and it depends on your family dynamic and how you were brought up, whether there was open conflict or whether you couldn't speak about, negative things because it was not right. You're meant to keep your personal life to yourself. Whereas we really need to be speaking to our friends and family and speaking to our loved ones. And if you notice that someone is showing signs that they are withdrawing themselves, or their personality might be changing, they may be worried about what they're changing their behaviour, changing what they wear, changing what they do, changing who they hang out with. The partner may never want to go certain places, meet any of their friends. They usually usually the dominant partner that's being the emotionally abusive one is very, very controlling about where that person is, what they wear, what they say, who they hang out with, how much money they spend. They generally control everything. And there are many, many, many red flags. And so I'll post in the comments a few links, and there's a really good a wheel called the Duluth Wheel that explains control and emotional abuse. And I just encourage you to, if you're in this situation personally, here are some guidelines. Find out if you're in a relationship, and if you're first in a relationship, one of the first things that you want to know, does your partner have a criminal record? And what is on their criminal record? And what have they been through? What have their past relationships been like? And also, it's absolutely a standard thing that should be happening. And if within the first couple of weeks they are have too many drinks and start calling you names, or make you feel unsafe, or make you feel concerned or just have you feel like you're not a very good person, this is not a healthy relationship. If that's happening in the beginning, it's going to continue to happen. And so you want to be with someone that illuminates you, that brings out the light in you, not someone that puts you down and makes you feel like crap. And so, yet when we're not necessarily feeling that good about ourselves, sometimes we start believing what that person is actually saying to us. So, and then they start convincing you that really it's all your fault and that it's your problem and that you're actually making it all up. And so I'd just like to share with you that you're not making it up. You are a beautiful person. It is not your fault. And you deserve to be treated with respect. Name calling or any type of physical, emotional, sexual abuse is absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And we as a community need to step in and do something about it. And we all have a responsibility. So the first thing that I did as soon as I got home, I'm like, I have to share this. So hopefully it might help someone who is currently going through this type of situation. Now, what you can do is you can call the Domestic Violence Advocacy Service, and it's a confidential call, and they will give you strategies. If you're married and you have children, they'll give you strategies on what you can actually do. If you're married and you've got children and your partner, whether it be the wife or the husband, is being verbally or physically abusive, and it's due to, it could be only when they're drunk, or they may be taking drugs, or any of those things. You can actually, if you call the police, they will come around and you can get an AVO. And what people need to understand is that married people can actually live in the same house and have a live with AVO, where you can live in the same house, but the partner who is being abusive cannot take drugs, drink, or come anywhere near you, the person who's being victimized, or the children within 24 hours of taking drugs or drinking or doing any of those things. So you can actually get an AVO that protects you whilst you're still living together. And then you'll have a domestic violence advocacy service or a domestic violence liaison officer that will start ringing you and checking in on you. And there is no hero and there's no villain. It's not about placing blame. There are many systems in the community to be able to help people through domestic violence and family violence. And with the right help and with the right counselling and with the right therapy, things can improve and things can get better. But just pushing it under the carpet and pretending it's not happening it will only get worse. You need to do something about it, and you need to encourage your friends and family or anyone that you know to do something about it. If you hear something in the neighbourhood, if you hear your neighbours fighting and it's escalating, call the police. There's a psychological problem that we have as human beings, and we have this apathetic attitude towards life, and that's, oh, someone would have already called, or it's someone, I don't want to get involved, it's none of my business. And I have a rule in life that if it's happening in front of me or if it's happening around me, it's absolutely my business. So if I remember being up in Nelson Bay with my parents, and I heard a horrendous fight about 1 kilometre away from where they lived, and I could hear the yelling and the screaming, and it was going on for quite a while. And I spoke to my sister and I spoke to my dad, and I said, what is that, all of that racket going? What's all that noise? And they said, oh, it happens quite often. And I said, it doesn't sound very good at all. I'm going to call the police. And so I jumped on the phone to the police, and I said, I can hear a big argument happening, and I can hear women screaming, and I can hear children crying, and I can hear things being smashed, but I can't tell you exactly where it is. I can tell you where my parents' house is, but I don't know exactly where it is. And they said, that's okay, we'll do a drive-by and we'll try and find out. Then the yelling and screaming, and it was horrible. It just kept happening. And then eventually I called the police again, and I said, have you found the place? It's getting worse. Can you please find the place? And they said, yes, we've found the place. We've sorted it out. Thank you very much for giving us a call. So if you notice something in your community, you can always call. And it's not about dobbing people in. It's about helping. Because the person who is being abusive, they need help. And the person that's being abused, they need help. And the kids that are in the situation, they don't need to be going through that. And so it's we all need to, as a community here in Australia, we all really need to stand together and say, look, it's absolutely not acceptable, and I will do something about it. And so share this message with your friend, or have a conversation with a friend or family member, and just ask the question, how, if your friend is suddenly changing their behaviour and they're seeming like they're being quite controlled, or it just doesn't seem right. And ask some more questions, like, how does he treat you? Are you okay? Is there anything that I can do to help? And just let them know that they are not alone, that this is a very, very common thing, and that it's not their fault, and that there are ways to be able to, there is plenty of help, there's plenty of support, and it's not about actually breaking families apart. It's about giving families the help that they need to become a healthier family and be able to deal with the behaviour that's happening within the family. So, in fact, when you call people in to be able to help, it's not, you're not doing the wrong thing, you're actually helping them, because there are many services that will help these families and help them be healthier, help them get the help that they need. And so it's not about, please don't feel burdened or like you're doing the wrong thing. It's definitely always call for help. Always call for help. And if you're in a new relationship, rule 1 is, if I think Jennifer Aniston was having an interview by some magazine, and they asked her, what would be the number one, what would be a reason why, what would have you break up with someone? What would be like a red flag, an immediate red flag? And she'd say, her answer was, the end of the relationship would be as if I needed to call the police. And so if your partner has a previous record with, violence or domestic violence or anything at all, then you need to know about it, and you need to tell your friends about it. And if your you have a friend that is going out with someone and you know that they have that past, then you need to tell that friend that even if the person that you might have a friend and they're the person that's got an interesting coloured background with domestic violence or violence or being aggressive, then you need to let that person know that that person has had those issues in the past. They need to know that. We all need to stick together, and it's not about ganging up on anyone. It's about supporting each other and getting everybody the help that they need in these kind of situations. And so there's plenty of people that you can call. So I just really encourage you to name calling, someone having you calling your names, someone having you feel scared, someone being controlling, someone telling you that you're stupid, someone, even the just bullying behaviour that you would not allow to happen in the schoolyard or you would not allow to happen at work, you cannot allow to happen at home. There is no difference between a bully in the schoolyard and a bully at work, yet we have more rules around bullies in the schoolyard and we have more rules around bullies at work, yet we seem to have this complacent attitude towards what happens with people at home. So here are the key things. If you notice or hear something in your neighbourhood, call the police. Call them and tell them that these people are fighting. I'm concerned for their safety. Can you please go and check on them? If you notice something happening in the street, call the police. If people are fighting in the street, you don't need to get involved. You just stand aside and call the police straight away. If someone is being abused, call the police. We have this, I was about to talk about the psychology of, I don't know the psychological term, but I can't remember it right now, but it was based on a woman in America who was going home from work, and she had been stabbed, and she was screaming out, help, someone help me, someone help me. And I think there was something like 36 people that heard her cries for help. 36 people, or maybe even more. I don't have the exact numbers, and I'll have to put a link to the exact situation that I'm referring to, so please don't take my numbers as law, but I'll try and recollect the story to the best of my memory at the moment. But of the 36 people that heard her cries for help, all of those people that were interviewed after the woman was found dead, they were all asked, why didn't you call the police? And they all said, I thought someone else had. I didn't want to get involved. It was none of my business. And so, have you ever had a feeling where you walk past something and you see something and you say, oh, that's probably not right, but I don't want to get involved. It's not any of my business. I don't want to, it's not my place. It is your place. It is all of our place. If you notice something, do something about it. If it's happening in front of you, do something about it. If you're hearing it, it's your business. If you're seeing it, it's your business. If you're this beautiful girl that was sitting next to me and the hairdresser that was sharing that information with me, I would definitely be following up that situation, because if it has become my business. It's all of our business if we hear anyone that's being verbally abused, emotionally, sexually, physically, spiritually. If anyone is being abused in any way, it is everyone's business, and especially if you're the one that's noticing it and hearing it. And so never ever question whether it's your business or not, because if you're hearing it, it is your business. And if you're going through this personally, I'm sorry that you're going through this, and I know that it's really, 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 really hard, and it's very, very hard to admit that you're in a very, very difficult situation. And just admitting it or telling someone is actually saying, you know, by verbalizing it, you're actually saying that, yes, it's happening and yes, it's a problem, and you're actually admitting it. And so by talking about it, it becomes real. Whereas if you are not talking about it, you can pretend that it's not happening. And in pretending that it's not happening, it's a coping mechanism. We all have many coping mechanisms. And so if you're in this situation personally, and you may be making all of the excuses in the world. Oh, it's not that bad. I did something wrong. I asked for it. I didn't clean up properly. I'm not working hard enough. I could be doing more. I need to change. Everything that person, and I keep saying whether it's the male or female, I'm not saying it's just a woman being the victim issue. This happens to men as well. And this happens in all kinds of relationships, whether they be all kinds of relationships. It can be happening between a daughter and a parent, and it can be happening in nursing homes. It can be happening in lots of different situations. So if it's happening to you, just understand that go to your GP and say to your GP, and go on your own and say to your GP, look, this is what is happening to me, and I just need to know if it's normal or if it's my fault or if it's not my fault, and have a conversation with your general practitioner. And then they will give you a referral, and that is your first step. Or talk to someone that you know that is either in the healthcare professional or someone that you trust, and just share with them what's going on, and just have the courage to be able to share what's actually going on. And the thing is also, if this is happening to you, you may be feeling that you downplay the situation because you love this person and you don't want to be mean to them, and you don't want your relationship to end, and you've built a life together, and there could be many other issues. There could be mental health challenges, there could be alcohol problems, there could be drug problems, or there could be stress or pressure from there are lots of other triggers. So you can blame it on all of those things until the cows come home. But the fact is, you need support and you need help. And so speak to someone. It's not your fault, and you don't deserve to be treated in a bad way. You don't deserve to be called names. You don't deserve to be belittled. You don't deserve nobody deserves that. Nobody ever deserves that. And an issue of, just this lovely girl that just said, he kind of verbally abuses me, but it's all right. It's not okay. It's never okay. So please, I encourage you to get some help. Speak to someone, get some help, get some support. There's plenty of support out there, and there are plenty of resources out there that can really help you and your whole family to be able to make the whole situation better, improve the situation, or help you leave the situation. Some people don't get help because they're too scared of where will they live, what will happen if I leave, he's threatening me to stay, or she's threatening me to stay, I don't have any money, I don't have any resources. There is plenty of help out there to help you be able to leave safely. And you can leave, and you can get support, and you can get financial assistance, and you just need to speak to the police, speak to the domestic violence advocacy services. There are plenty of charities around. There are plenty of support groups. There is plenty of help. And like I said, it's not about blaming anybody. It's about helping the whole family Nobody wants to break a family apart, and the person that's being abusive, they don't like being abusive. They feel horrible after they do it. Most people that are abusive or violent feel absolutely horrible the next day. They have so much shame and guilt and embarrassment. They need help. They need support. And so the whole family needs support. And so whether it's a sibling situation or a relationship situation or a marriage or anything at all, just put yourself first and put your children first and do what's best for everybody involved and ask for help. And please share this with anyone that needs to hear it. And if you're struggling or if you're having any, I'm not going to ask people to ask questions because it's too much of a personal issue and people would probably prefer this to be private. But if you want to send any comments of encouragement to other people or any words of wisdom, please share them in the comments. Or if you have a story that you could share, please share it, because people need to understand that this is a very, very big issue and we all have a responsibility to do something about it. So it's never, ever okay. We definitely teach people how to treat us, and we all deserve to be treated with respect. And you deserve to be treated with respect. And if you're not being treated with respect, then get some help, because you need to learn how to be treated with respect. But it's a bit of a heavy issue, but it's a big issue and it's an important issue. And otherwise, have a great day, everyone. But it's everybody's responsibility. It's everybody's business. Call the police. Call the police. Speak to someone. Reach out. If it's happening to someone that you know, do something about it. It is your business. If it's happening near you and you know about it, it's your business. It's everybody's business. Thank you for watching. I'm talking later on a more positive topic, but I thought I'd just share this because it's my business, because it happened in front of me and I need to do something about it. Take care, everyone. Bye.